Okay, hi everyone. Today is our first ever Education on Air conference. Today's educators are holding over 46 Hangouts on Air, just really leading discussions on a whole range of topics in education technology. So once again, a big thank you to all presenters, especially Alice, for giving their time to this and for all of you watching. All of our presenters do have early access to Hangouts on Air, which is a technology that allows you to broadcast and record Hangouts. So if you want to watch any of the sessions today, simply either go to the presenter's Google Plus page at the appointed time, or you can find a link to all the sessions on our conference website. And our conference website is sites.google.com/site/EduOnAir. So once again, sites.google.com/site/EduOnAir. So with that, let me introduce the speaker and we can get started. So Alice Barr, once again, graciously agreed to host the Google Apps for the School Community Hangout. She's currently the Instructional Technology Integrator at Yarmouth High School, which is an Apple Distinguished High School. She supports students and teachers in using their technology in a one-to-one laptop environment. Alice is also a Google certified teacher, and she teaches technology education classes at the University of Southern Maine. And she's also 1/3 of the Seedlings team. Alice blogs at alicebarr.com and is also at alicebarr on Twitter. So with that, I'll turn the time over to Alice and go right ahead.
Thanks, everybody, and thank you, Stephen, very much for the introduction. I appreciate it, and I sure appreciate your support here. Thank you so much for everybody for coming in and trying this new endeavor with me. And I'll admit right up front, this is new stuff, so we'll give it a go and see what happens. So just quickly, as Stephen said, I am in a one-to-one environment. I would love to hear who you are and what you're sort of looking for today, if you don't mind. So it looks like I'm on the left. I don't know if that's the same for you, but I know that, Beth, if you wouldn't mind going first, and then we can just kind of go down the line, who you are, what you do, and kind of what you're looking for today.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Beth Billingsley. I'm the Instructional Technology Coach with Cumberland County Schools, and I'm just interested in seeing what other schools are doing and other school systems and see what y'all have to offer and share today.
And Chrissy, why don't you go next? Oh, we lost Chrissy. So Paul, would you mind going?
Sure, no problem. My name is Paul Barrett, and I'm the Director of Technology for the Burrillville, Rhode Island School Department. And we've been using Google Apps for about 2 years now, and I'm very interested in learning how other districts are using it, what they've found, what great best practices they have, and possibly maybe helping someone else who has questions.
Thanks. And Paul?
Yeah, hi. I'm a lecturer in functional skills IT, which is quite a strange phenomenon because it's probably the worst place to introduce new ideas. I've built a couple of learning environments over the last couple of years using Google Apps and other Web 2 tools, and I just trying to get a feel for which other tools people are kind of favouring and which ones are working for them.
Great, thanks. Thank you. Chrissy? So, Chrissy, can you introduce yourself if you can hear me? And she may not be able to hear me, so I guess we'll, Chrissy, if you don't mind, I'm going to move on because I'd like to start. And just let me give you, I have an agenda today. So here's the interesting thing. I'm going to try to screen share now. So that you can see what's on my screen. And so I have a window here that I'm going to share with you, and hopefully that will come out the right way for you. So can you see that when I have it up on the screen? Can you see it should say Google Apps for the School Community? Great. Okay. So I'm going to not be able to see you for a little minute here. And basically, we've done our introductions. I've given you a little background. I wanted to just talk about why Google Apps for Ed really fits in nicely for our community. And then I'm going to quickly I do this session usually as a full day session. So we're taking the full day and really cramming it into 50 minutes. So I'm only going to talk about what we're doing with sites, calendar, and groups for today. And I certainly want you to feel free if you have questions and things. We'll stick my information up at the end so that you can get more information. And then some lessons I've learned while doing this, and then we'll have some Q&A. My intention during the demo part is that I'll talk about sites, and then I'll give you some time to ask questions as well. And so you know I'm in a one-to-one environment. We were using First Class, and our students have had email since long before I got here, which is 13 years. And I've been in my position as an integrator the entire time that I've been in this job. So our school is pretty receptive to technology and technology use. We're a fairly collaborative district. So when we were looking at, First Class just wasn't doing enough collaboration for us. We're very collaborative when we work in teams and things. So we were looking for something, and Google came out with Google Apps for Ed just, sort of just at the right time. The things that, we were able to replicate many of the issues that we used in First Class. We were able to replicate in Google, only now we're doing it even better. And it's really a better work environment for us. So I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And then why Google Apps for Ed? Really a better work environment. Oh, I'm hearing feedback. Are you hearing feedback? There. So why Google Apps for Ed? We're finding that it's very transparent for our work. Again, that word collaboration. Easy for everyone to use. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone, from the second graders to the most savvy users to teachers who used to not really be on board with technology tools. Everything really works together, and this is what I love, is that one-stop shop approach. Your documents are all in one place. They're connected to your mail. The Google Apps for Education domain allows us to have our students in a directory format so that when a teacher is typing in students' names, they show right up. I'm going to talk a little bit more about student directories, but everything is so seamless and together that it makes it super easy for us to have access to everything. So for example, this morning I was in a meeting. We're planning a huge 9th grade digital citizenship day, and everybody was able to edit the documents in the site. So most of you are probably pretty familiar with that. And then cost was definitely a factor when we moved over to the Google Apps for Ed domain. $15,000 for First Class email versus free. A big difference. So that was really a big piece of it as well. So I'm kind of speeding along because I want to hear from you as well. But what I thought I'd do is start with sites. And I'm going to switch now. Now let's see if I can do this well. I want to switch to our actual web pages because I want you to see how this works. So I'm going to unclick screen share, and I'm going to try screen sharing a different screen now. And let me now, does it matter if it's a different browser? That's the big question here. No? Okay, thank you. I think this is what I want. Yes, okay. So I'm hoping that you can see a window with a blue links down the side. So this is our High School homepage. And as I said, we moved from First Class to Google. And we used to have all of our web pages in First Class. We built them all in First Class. One of the things we did before we transitioned to Google was that we put out feedback to parents, and we wanted to know exactly what things that they wanted on web pages. And so we purposely designed all of our web pages to look alike. And so if you go from Yarmouth High School to the middle school, you'll see that they're very similar in the look and feel. We wanted people to be able to navigate and find things really, really quickly. We got a lot of feedback that parents do use our websites. They're definitely looking for information all the time. And the biggest things were obviously announcements, calendars, and then teacher web pages. So, excuse me, so every school has a teacher web page section, and so if you click on that on any of the pages, you will get to all of our teachers' web pages. So we really try to create things commonly, and again, the purpose for this is because we looked at our clientele and we wanted to make it very clear that we're about supporting technology but supporting parents. So any teacher's webpage that you click on here, you get to their information quickly, you can get to their homework and so forth. Let's see. Now, all of those websites obviously are public, but we also needed to have a place to be able to share information for just our teachers and students. So we created, hold on, I'm getting lost here a second. We created what we call our staff and students intranet. And so I just want you to look quickly at this. This is a page that you can't see. Only people who have permission can see. And what we wanted to have here was everything available that you know, we wouldn't put out to the public, or the public doesn't really need to know. So this is shared only by staff members, and then we have another one that's only for students. And all of the information down the left-hand side is things like how you email our groups, and I'm going to talk about groups in a minute, you know, faculty meeting notes, our handbook, so on and so forth. Another feature of the sites that I really, really like is that exactly this. We've taken all of our handbooks and policy manuals and made them into sites. And that has been really nice. So let me just get this, the advisory mission statement. So because they're all available in sites now, you know, it's very little editing at the beginning of the year. We really streamlined the process in terms of having to revise things. So let me stop at this point and unshare my screen and just have you ask a couple of questions around sites. And go ahead and unmute and we can kind of talk about any questions about how we're doing sites, or... And by the way, all the links to these are on my page at the Hangout conference session, so that you can just click on them and look.
Alice?
Yes.
I would like to say, too, that one of the sort of features that we didn't expect to be so powerful with Google Apps, but has been for our district, is sites. Because we use them for lots of different reasons, like you've shown, but one of the nice things we've done, too, is using them to create sort of startup portals for teachers and for students. So just a nice central place to keep all of those links to things that they need, so when they open up their web browser, it's right there. And it's really sort of a killer feature of Google Apps that we didn't really expect, and it's been really nice.
That's a great point, and I call it the glue. I really feel like it's the glue for everything else. And things like portfolios and being able to create templates has been huge. I really appreciate that fact.
Yeah, the question I would ask you, Alice, and Paul too, is as you're using sites in your district or at your schools, how are you, one, creating sites? So do you create all the sites for your users, or do you have them create sites themselves? And then two, how are you finding managing all the different sites you're creating? So I saw that you had that website, but are there other ways you're managing? Because it seems like if you have a district with 10,000 students, it'd be really, really hard to manage all the different sites you might have to create. So talk a little bit about creation and also management of sites.
Paul, you want to take that, or?
I can start, but I think
Sure.
you probably have more feedback to give. So we really haven't used sites in terms yet in terms of students creating sites because we already had a portfolio system in place. Although I'm interested in seeing if this can take the place of it, but we do use it a lot with staff and teachers. So some of the sites I created and started, and then handed them off to other people, and they've taken off. Sometimes we've just created, as Alice said, a template and let teachers sort of peel it off and then, use it for their own classroom site. So we've used it in different ways. Managing sites, I think, is probably a little scary to people who haven't used this type of environment, because some of the comments I've gotten from my colleagues are, you just let staff create websites? And it's like, well why not? Of course. So it is a little bit different, and like Alice, our district came from first class, where teachers sort of had the ability to do that anyway, although this works a lot better. But one of the challenges we have found is the URLs for sites, getting people used to those URLs. And so like Alice, what we've tried to do is just create links of staff directories and things so people don't have to type those in. But we've done also a lot of DNS mapping of our sites to friendly names like start.our domain name and students.our domain name, and that makes a big difference. So I would say one of the sort of those little things that you learn as you go is you really need to partner with someone in your district who can change the DNS records and make those changes quickly for you. Luckily, I'm the person that does that, but if you're not, it's really not a big deal, but if you want those changes made quickly, you definitely want to buy that person a cup of coffee or a muffin every once in a while.
That's a great point. Anybody else? Any comments about sites?
Yeah,
So,
and John Goldsmith, just from the comment stream, was saying that if they don't do it in sites, teachers would just go somewhere else. So it's even better to just have it in your environment. Mike on the stream also says he uses sites for portfolios. So once again, people who are listening on the live stream, keep those comments coming. We definitely are watching.
And I would say that it totally depends on the situation, at least in our case, of whether we create them or not. So for example, with our teacher pages, we did want the look and feel to be the same. So we have their cover page when you get to their teacher site. They all look the same. They have contact information and a link back to the school that they work in. But once you're past that, it's up to the teacher what they want to do. Same thing with portfolios. For kids, we usually give them a choice because we want them to own it. With teachers, they have a choice whether to use our template or not. And then, of course, with policy manuals, I'm starting to wish we had a template for those, because from a design perspective, they just look better. Then you get the flow. What I'm learning in all of this is a lot about your brand and your market. And so you sort of, as you're developing these tools, you kind of want to think about what's the design in the background to flow through all these tools, so that, again, people coming to your site from the outside, which is primarily parents and kids, does it have some kind of semblance of order to it? Otherwise, it's a little bit random and it doesn't always make sense. The one other thing, and I guess, is the organization of sites within the directory is hopefully somewhere on the sites team docket to organize somehow. Please. we're small, luckily, but you know, for bigger schools, I can imagine the list of sites in your sites directory is pretty amazing. Any comments about that, Stephen?
No comment.
Okay, darn.
There's one other feature of sites too that just is fairly recent that people might find really helpful is the fact that now you can give page level permissions to sites,
Right.
which in the past you couldn't. So we're in the process of moving our schools from Drupal to Google Sites because now you can just give certain roles without having to let them edit the whole site. So you can really, really distribute the authoring of your site content, whereas before it was a little trickier. So that's really nice.
Yeah, page level permissions were definitely a huge feature request that lots of schools and school districts are asking for, and definitely the more we hear from schools on what they need, what they want, the more we improve our product in the direction that schools are looking for. So, you know, more people who are looking for the same directory type thing you're looking for, Alice, the more our engineers will be focusing on those products.
Great, thank you. And I think that's also speaking to students being able to use the tools. The page level permission is a terrific way to take a site and make it almost an editable textbook. So the example I'm thinking of right now is our 9th grade English teachers doing Greek gods. And so she has access to the entire site, but the students have page level permissions, and so she has them writing the pages of the site depending on what Greek god or goddess they are. And that's a really cool way to keep it interactive, keep the kids all in one place, if you will, and then you have a terrific product at the end. And there's so many ways that can be applied to the classroom. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts about those page level permissions, and thanks for that very much for bringing that up. So I'm going to move on now just to the piece about calendars, and if that's okay with you all, just because of in the interest of time. And we're going till 12:50, correct, Stephen?
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to make sure that we have enough time to do everything. I'm going to just talk a little bit about calendars here. And I know that you're probably pretty familiar with calendars, but what I just wanted to talk about for a little bit here is the fact that, okay, Google Calendars has completely revolutionized for us how we do business in this school. So what I'm sharing with you right now is a set of calendars that I created for the high school. and right here in this list there are 6 calendars. So we have a blue-white rotating 2-day schedule. And so I obviously need to have those calendars. Obviously field trips. We have a meeting calendar, which would be our staff development day meetings. And then we have public dates that we want to put out, as well as we have in-school dates that would be things like, you know, I don't know, we have a book group discussion or something. So you can come in here and you can subscribe to any one of these calendars. You can get information by clicking on any one of these links. By clicking on one of these links, you'll see that if you click on it, obviously it takes you to the calendar. So that's great, terrific, that's really neat. But what's I think is the important part is that parents can click on this Dates to Date public, go down here in the right calendar, and I'm hoping you can see that plus button. And by clicking that, any parent in our district can put those dates right on their calendar. That means they can get it on their phone. That means they can get it on any device that they have. So that to me is really powerful. But then the other piece here is on the left side here. You'll see the calendar in agenda form. So this calendar every single teacher has access to, and it combines all 6 of these things on the right into one calendar on the left. And if you go into the settings of calendar, you have the ability to combine all those pieces together into one. And that means then if I go down into the bottom of this calendar right here, hopefully you can see this. Again, here's that plus button. If I click on that plus button, it's going to ask me, it's going to put all those things onto my calendar. So that to me is pretty cool. That really, and I'm already subscribed to them, so it doesn't ask me at this point. It would ask most people if you really want to put all 6 of those things onto your calendar. But that to me is powerful. So let's take it now to the classroom. And in the classroom, what we're finding teachers are doing is that they're using this calendar as a homework calendar. And so I'm going to take you to a teacher's page, which I should have had open already, but I don't. So just bear with me here for 1 minute. I have a teacher who is a math teacher who uses the calendar as his homework assignments. So over here on the left, this is our typical teacher page, contact information. And if I go here to the link, it takes me to his homework calendar. Now what's kind of cool is that if you click on this page many times, there's one, he uses the agenda in here to explain what the homework is. Now that means then that if a parent comes into his page or a student comes into his page and clicks that plus button, the homework then all dumps onto the student's calendar, and it will be called Honors Senior Math Period 3. So that student is automatically subscribed. And then I think the real power is that as you change a date, and you probably know this, but just to be clear, when a date is changed on the calendar, there's no need to resubscribe. It's automatically put on your calendar. And the reason I'm pretty excited about this is because we don't have to have 1,000 emails about the date changing for the staff meeting. If people are paying attention to their calendar, and that is an expectation that people will pay attention to these calendars, then the meetings just are scheduled or changed. People are aware of that. Same thing for homework. And that seemed to be something that parents were really asking for, was ability to be able to see what homework so that they can help their kids. So if the assignment changes, the due date changes, the teacher changes it on the calendar, it's not all this emailing home about the dates changed for the end of the project or whatever it is. Then again, our students have their own calendars. So one of the things that we've been looking at a lot is helping students manage their own time, study skills, if you will. Some of that practice is working with how do you manage your assignments through the use of Google Calendar. So I'm going to unshare it again, and I'd love to hear some of your feedback on how you might be using calendars, or if you have any questions.
Alice, I think you made a really good point about the expectations in a school or an organization or a district to use the calendar, because our curriculum director has been doing just that this year. She's got a calendar for all of the different work groups and things, and she is not sending out reminders about meetings. And it took people a little while to get the hang of that, but it's made her life so much easier. And as you said, people get so much email already. I think people appreciated the fact those weren't going back and forth. But we have had people say, well, I didn't come to the meeting, or I missed the meeting because I didn't get the reminder. So it is a culture, and it's almost, you definitely have to have the school leader or whomever the leader is set those expectations, and people have to buy into that culture, or you get some mixed results.
Yep. And I think you raise a really important issue, school culture and expectations. It definitely is a shift in the way we do business, again, as I sort of alluded to at the beginning. And I think from my perspective, it's time for teachers and students to take ownership of their own learning, of their own the real world, if I can say that. But I think it's really great. I mean, for kids particularly, you know, it's great. It's a great skill to have. And as Google keeps changing the calendar, you know, you can now book rooms. I don't know if people are aware of that, but you have that resource calendar, so you can start to book rooms and things. I think it's going to be a very, very powerful component to what we do and how we operate in terms of saving time and energy, being able to share things. Do other people have comments about, or are there any comments in the stream?
Yeah, hi Alice. I mean, one of the things I'd like to develop with the calendar is we have a central timetable for ourselves, but I never know where the rest of the staff are. So if someone comes to the office and says, you know, where is John Smith, I can't actually find out where that person is without searching all the rooms to try and find which room they're in. And the same with students as well. If you try and build your timetabling across a bunch of classes for the pupils and the staff, it kind of makes it a lot easier to find out where people are if you need to get a hold of them quickly. But certainly the system we use at the moment, I just constantly find myself assuming that other person is teaching and having to answer with, I don't know where they are, which is not a very impressive response when a student comes looking for a tutor. So I'm kind of playing around with ideas to try and develop that so that if we have these shared calendars, obviously mine can say which room I'm in at what time. And if I share that with all the rest of my staff, my colleagues, at any given time, I should know where everybody is. So, I don't know, has anyone tried doing anything similar?
Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I can't comment in the education space, but I know that, you know, at Google at work, I do have access to calendars for everybody across my team. So if I'm looking for someone, it's very easy for me to look at their calendar and see what room they're in, or if they're in a meeting, or really what's going on with their life. So that just helps me keep track of, you know, what's going on, when not to disturb them. I think also because of the way calendar is set up, I can have private meetings. I can have do not disturb sections of my calendar, so I don't have to share every part of my life with my coworkers.
Okay.
Yeah, Mark Stupless brings up a good point that, you know, teachers can see each other's calendars, then they can also help avoid overloading a student with a bunch of projects on the same date. So having those calendars really do help in the overall organization of the school.
That's a great point. We always run into that at the end of the year, especially. All the projects are due right together, so that's a great point. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? So shall I move on to groups, because we've got about 12 minutes. So let me just talk quickly about how we're using groups. I think this is one of the underutilized kind of applications. And let me get my page here. So I'm running the old version of groups, and I'm not really sure why. I couldn't figure out how to update it. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. So as I said, we migrated from First Class, and one of the things that's great about First Class is that they have spaces called conferences. And conferences meant that you could email a large group of people, but you could also stick files and things in that. And we had a hard time thinking of how we might be able to replicate that. And what we came up with is groups. And so we have set up, for example, here's one called YHS Staff. So this goes to anybody who has anything to do with the Yarmouth High School. And so this group is available in two ways, and this is what I think is so powerful about groups. So the first way is that if I send an email to yhsstaff@yarmouthschools.org, everybody who is in this group will get an email, but it also shows up here in this discussion window. So if you delete May birthdays out of your email and you can't find it, which you would be able to because of the search feature, but you have a running record here in the discussion. So all the email basically that is sent to YHS staff is archived here. And the purpose for doing it this way is because most people filter out this because it's not super, super important. It's just day-to-day stuff. And then the other thing that we use for a group that I really like, oh, sorry. And so I just wanted to show you a setup, and I have a setup page I'll show you in a second. But when you receive the email, it comes in brackets, and you can designate what's in the brackets. So if I get email that's been sent to this address, it gets in my email directory. It has big black brackets around it so that it really stands out. So for example, district news clearly has something to do with our whole district, is very important, and I want to be sure and read that. But this is what I'm really excited about. I have a group called YHS Read and Learn Links. So we have set this up so that you can, like if you're reading and you come across an article that you like, we use Digo, which is a bookmarking service. So we have enough people reading that we were starting to email each other, you should read this, you should read this, you should read this, and it got really unmanageable. So we created this group, and anybody in this case can email to this group something that they think is worth reading for professional development. And you'll notice that sometimes they have a link in it, and you'll see that this particular one comes from my Digo group. So I see this as a really huge potential for organizing, for being able to create, like you could set it up for a project and have all the information come through here. You can, and let me switch windows here, you can set it up so that, actually I'm not going to share it, but you can set it up so that only certain people can email to it. And on the links, I'm going to unscreen share here, but on the links that I have in the on-air Hangout session materials, there's a screenshot to how to set up those groups so that you can do that. So both emailing and just having it be a discussion. And then we have one group called Ads and Notes, and that some people want, some don't, so you have to actually ask to subscribe to that. I think I was just at Google in New York on Monday, and I think some people are starting to use these as discussion forums really well. So I think it's one of those unutilized tools really that has a great deal of potential. Anybody else using groups? No?
Alice, we use them a lot too, and I think it's also because we came from first class, and people were so used to conferences, and it's really kind of funny how in separate ways you and I have mirrored very similar things in our schools or districts, but we use it a lot for group communication, just like you had talked about, and people do like going to the web interface to find things that they had deleted, or it's also nice to be able to point people to say, you know what, that information was sent to the group a month or two ago, and go refer to that instead of me showing you how to do it again type of thing. It is nice. We've had a couple of people set up their own groups and use them, but probably not as many as I would like to see. And it could just be information overload, but that's another nice thing you can turn on if you want to for your users to say that they're able to create their own groups, and then they can sort of self-manage them. So it's totally up to how you set it up.
And what I like about setting up your own groups is that you can designate a little ending on the group name so that you know it's a teacher-created group, and that kind of separates things out.
Right.
Because a lot of times teachers will create them for the year or something like that. And so that's a really nice feature. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I've created groups for the different streams, if you like. So if they're working towards one set of exams, but they're in different classes, I can create the group which pulls all those people from different classes together, so I can kind of get in touch with them all at the same time, rather than trying to think in class A I need to get in touch with X, Y, and Z, and so on and so forth. At the start of the year, when the decisions are taken as to what level they're going to be studying towards, I'll put them all in a group just aimed at that level. So if I come across something in one class that I think the students in the other groups might find quite useful, I can post it to that level in one go. So that I know that everyone's kind of getting the same information, working towards the same targets, and they can start kind of sharing it with each other as well. So
Nice.
that kind of works.
Nice, thanks.
Yeah, what I love about groups is groups actually allows you to share information across all the other applications as well. So if you're creating a Google Doc, you can share with the group and everybody has access to Google Doc. Same with Google Sites, same with Google Calendar. So it makes it a lot easier to share information by creating a group as opposed to having to individually add each student or individually add each teacher to every meeting. So it makes my life a lot easier as I'm sharing information with my team or my wider organization. We get a question from Dan, and he asked, do you use Google Groups for your students? And do they use Google Groups? Do you allow them to create their own groups? Talk a little bit about that.
We do use them with students. We do not have them creating their own yet, but we use it primarily to send out announcement type things. So we have a group of all students, and then we have groups by graduation year. So, of course, the class of 2012 is very busy right now with all the end of the year stuff. So that makes it really nice that you can email the class of 2012 as opposed to all students. Does that make sense, Dan? I think, is that what you're asking? And then I'm not sure how, I guess most students would come to me if they want a group created. I think we just weren't sure how groups were going to work at the beginning of last year, and so we haven't gone on to students. I'd like to possibly see them use that, leverage that. Excuse me. Anyone else using them with students? No? So any final thoughts on Google Apps for the school community? As I said, this is kind of you usually do this in a full day, so we did a tiny snapshot. I did just want to start kind of wrapping up here. Any final thoughts for?
Yeah, there's a final question from Illuminate on the comments. And he asked, how much training did you have to do with your staff? So I know you showcased a lot of different applications today.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about your training plan and how did you get them up to speed with all the things that you showcased today?
Okay. Well, first of all, we started the Google Apps domain without email initially, and we opened it up first of all to people who wanted to try it primarily. So what we did was, our initial thing was to upload all the students. We use a naming protocol, which is their Y for Yarmouth, year of graduation, first 3 letters of their first name, first 3 letters of their last name. And that's so that they would be able to have an email address that they could use on the internet to protect them. And then so we started pretty much by me, being the integrator, going into classrooms, kind of showing them how to do it. We started with just Docs, Sites, and Calendar, because that's what Google Apps for Ed had at the time. The kids had a little bit of problem initially sharing documents, but then they figured it all out once they realized they just had to look in their documents folder. Last March, we rolled out the full Google Apps with Mail as we transitioned out of first class. And so what we did was we had a full day K-12 district-wide training. Now again, we're small, and I'm happy to share that information with you. We had a couple of people who had used Google Apps come in from the outside and work with teachers. So we did a full day conference style, pick your own session. And teachers went to 3 sessions, and then we gave them work time. We also had a full mail session in the morning. And then we transitioned. We were still using both emails at that time. We stopped. We recommended stopping to use first class in April. And then we rolled over at the end of April last year so that we could work out all the Gmail bugs before school started in September. And that worked really, really well. People were really, we had very little transition issues. It was good. So now we do, I would say our administrators model quite a bit of using Google Apps, and people are just moving right along.
What about you, Paul? What kind of training professional development have you done?
So we actually didn't do a whole lot of in-person, I should say, PD at all because of some organizational issues that are happening. So we did a lot of, I do a lot of screencasts. I do a lot of step-by-step type instructions with using Snagit and things like that. And people, we really had, it's amazing. We've really had very few issues, and we did very similar to what Alice talked about in terms of we had an, sort of a pilot group to try things out and find all the little bugs and things that didn't work well. We overlapped for a period of about 3 months. I think it was from April until June. And we cut over July 1st, and very similar for that reason of we didn't want to start the school year, first day of school, with a brand new system that we haven't tried anything with. So we went from July until the end of August working through those little things, working through, you know, I forgot my password, that type of thing. Alice, I'd be really interested to find out, one of the things that we found that teachers struggled, well, not all teachers, but some teachers struggled with in the beginning was the CAPTCHA to activate their Google account. And that was an unanticipated, that was probably the biggest bump we had. And did you run into the same thing? And we had people twisting laptop screens to try and see that CAPTCHA.
I'll tell you what we did is we brought in kids.
Oh, that's awesome. So, Stephen, if there's any feedback I could give you, so make the CAPTCHA piece a little bit simpler for the grown-ups. It seems like the students, as Alice said, don't have any trouble with that, but we still have, even when we have new staff members come on board, sometimes we have to go and help them with that initial accepting and typing in the CAPTCHA. But otherwise, Stephen, we were really surprised. Now, since then, we've done in-person PD on docs and sites, and we have a consortium with 3 other districts in northern Rhode Island, northwest Rhode Island. Rhode Island's very small, so it's interesting how we break it up into sections, even though you can drive from one end to another in an hour. But and we did a technology teacher summit last summer, and a lot of it focused on using Google Apps, and so a lot of our teachers participated in that. We don't have in our district a lot of mandated professional development time. Most of it's voluntary, not mandatory, so it's difficult for us to do district-wide PD and make sure we cover everyone. So we've sort of tried to be creative and do a lot of webinars, recording a lot of webinars to try and make sure that we at least do just-in-time type training.
Yeah. And I think we're taking one more question. It's actually from Beth. So you can actually see in the chat section. So she's she was a little confused, or from what I understand, her tech director just purchased First Class, and she'd love to understand why someone would choose First Class over Google, or what was your rationale for choosing First Class before, since both of you apparently came from First Class.
Do you want to go first, Alice?
Sure. So we were First Class for, as I said, forever and ever and ever. I would say the primary reason was we leased it through a company. We didn't self-manage it, and it was getting, it just wasn't doing enough collaborative activities for us, I would say.
Yeah, I would probably echo Alice's sentiments, and I actually ran First Class in 3 different districts, so I had a lot of experience with it. And First Class definitely has its positives, but as web-based solutions sort of grew, First Class, you really need to use a client to get the most out of it, and that sort of made it difficult for people to use it outside school. So I think you'd want to use First Class if you were worried about some other company possibly hosting your content.
Yep.
But honestly, it's been almost a full 2 years now, and no one, and I'm not exaggerating, not a single staff member has asked to bring First Class back.
Same. I would say the same. The only thing that you can't do, I think, in Google that you could do in First Class is who's read your message. Now there are third-party things to do it. So.
Yeah, our secretaries asked for that feature back because they could check to see which staff members read the message, and then the staff members who said they didn't read it, the secretaries could say to them, "Oh, yes, you did."
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Same with kids.
Oh, right. Interesting point. Yeah.
So that's been a little shift, but other than that, it's been fine.
Okay, so we're actually gonna end the session now. Once again, we want to thank Alice so much for leading this session. It's been really helpful. Thank everyone else in the Hangout for just contributing, and everyone on the live stream. Feel free to continue the conversations on the live stream, on the comment section. If you have further questions, we'll definitely still be monitoring it. But thank you so much for your time, and please continue to attend some of the other sessions.
Yes, and I just want to echo, Stephen, thank you so much for helping out here. It was great to have you and for jumping in. And thank you, Beth and Paul. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you coming today. And Chrissy, I'm sorry about your line cutting out, but anyway, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to meet you all, and appreciate it.
Great. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank
you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Stephen.